Well, here we go again. Every time we hear them two words, unconscious bias in policing, it sounds like every one of those excuses that you give when you're trying to sidestep a real issue. It's like someone saying, I didn't mean to be rude, or oops, didn't realize I was being a jerk. I mean, come on. We grew up seeing through this BS. We knew when someone was full of it, and no one back then would have called the bully's behavior unconscious anything. You didn't hide it. You didn't rebrand it. You didn't frickin' sugarcoat it. The jerk was a jerk, the bully was a bully, and an asshole is an asshole, and we dealt with them head on. And now here we are hearing terms like unconscious bias in discussions about policing as if that's supposed to explain away every little issue. I mean, are you serious? I mean, sure, yes, bias exists, but that's not the root of the problem here. The real problem is that a certain number of people in law enforcement are in it for the wrong reasons. They're not there to protect or serve for the power and the control that they are given over society. And they're in it because they want to demand respect instead of earning it from the people. They get in there and get that badge and suddenly it's everyone step aside because I've got authority now. I mean, and we're calling that unconscious bias instead of calling it what it is. It's a power trip for a little bully that's got small man syndrome and was probably picked on back in school and when he was a child or had an over-domineering father. I mean, and that is not a problem that you could train out of somebody with seminars and sensitivity sessions. It's personality, plain and simple. So you got to kind of try and break it down. And the real issue is that there are people who are simply drawn to positions of authority for the wrong reasons. They want control. They want obedience. And once they get a taste of that power, they latch onto it like it's their last chance at any internal self-worth. That's not about unconscious anything. It's about conscious, deliberate behavior from people who should never be trusted with power over others. Now, hiring standards do aim to weed out bad apples, but how well is this actually working? I mean, look at the reality. Some people get into policing because they're natural leaders. They want to make a difference. They generally care. But others get into it because they're looking for a way to feel important. They want people to answer to them, and they'd rather intimidate than protect. It's the difference between someone who sees the job as public service and someone who sees it as personal authority. And you know who I'm talking about. The kind who doesn't just want to keep the peace. They want to be the king of their own little kingdom. And you can spot these people and these types in action immediately. They're the ones that get that little glint in their eye when someone questions them. They're not focused on de-escalation or community. They're interested in winning, in enforcing their will. And instead of calling out this behavior directly, we brush it off as unconscious bias and let it slide. So I think we kind of need to talk about this unconscious catchphrase that floats around. I mean, it's become this convenient excuse that departments can hide behind, allowing them to sweep the real issues under the rug. Unconscious bias is a softer way to talk about a problem without actually addressing it, instead of saying, yeah, we got bullies and shitheads on the force. We need to address unconscious bias. It's about softening the blow, about keeping things looking shiny and professional on the outside. But putting these people through a few bias training sessions isn't going to fix a damn thing. I mean, if you have a jerk in your office, what happens? Either he or she shapes up or ships out the door. But when it comes to policing, when we call it unconscious bias and act like some PowerPoint presentation is going to change anything, the reality is a little training isn't going to make a bully any less a bully. If someone's got an attitude problem, they don't need sensitivity training. They need accountability. Letting someone with this kind of personality keep holding a badge, that's just asking for trouble. If the solution to every single issue is to throw more training at it, then we're just throwing money at something should be addressed at a deeper level. You can give all the training in the world to someone who craves control, but at the end of the day, they'll find ways to flex that control whenever they get the chance. A badge just makes it easier for them to do it under the guise of doing their job. Now it's time to get personal. Gen X, we grew up without any of this nonsense. Nobody back then would have been able to pull off this unconscious talk. We weren't raised with language that padded reality. If you were a bully, you were called a bully. If you were a jerk, people told you. That's how we dealt with things. We didn't dance around issues. We didn't reframe everything in a soft, palatable way. We called things what they were. And it's not like we're strangers to authority gone wrong. I mean, we had to live through all kinds of power abuse, from school principals who ruled like dictators to cops who didn't think twice about putting us in our place. We've been on the receiving end of over-the-top power moves, and we know a bully when we see one. We didn't need someone to tell us it was unconscious. It was in your face and crystal clear. Look, we didn't grow up asking the world to coddle us. We were latchkey kids. We figured things out for ourselves, and we had to handle problems our own way without the convenience of rebranding them into something softer. We dealt with issues head on because it's the only way you get real change. But now they're more interested in rephrasing than actually fixing. It's like we've decided it's better to soften the language than to root out the people causing the issue in the first place. So what happens when we refuse to address this head on? When we use soft terms to dodge accountability? We end up with people who should have never had power over others in positions where they can't be questioned. And every time we brush off their behavior as unconscious, we're essentially giving them a free pass to keep going. It's a slap in the face to public trust and integrity. People aren't stupid. They see what's happening. They know when they're dealing with someone who genuinely cares about their community and when they're facing someone who's on a power trip. The more we dodge reality, the more we lose the public's trust. And guess what happens to good cops? The ones who actually want to serve and protect. They get dragged down by the reputation created by these unchecked bully assholes. It's like a bad office environment. You might love the work, but if people around you are just toxic and destroying the environment, it ruins the whole place for everybody involved. And public trust in policing is definitely at an all-time low. And can you really blame anyone? You throw a bunch of power-hungry jerks in the force, brush off every issue as unconscious bias, and expect people to look the other way? It's ridiculous. No amount of training, seminars, or PR is going to fix it if we don't address the core issue. Accountability. If someone's out there wielding power like it's a weapon, they need to be called out and dealt with, not handed a certificate of attendance from bias training. So I got to say, here's the bottom line. Stop hiding behind the words unconscious bias. Stop hand-holding the excuses, the endless talk about training programs. This isn't about bias. It's about bullies in uniform, plain and simple. Some people just don't belong in positions of authority, period. And the more that we avoid the truth, the worse things get. We need to face reality and start calling these people out for what they are. Just generally in today's world, accountability has become a lost art. And honestly, Gen X has had it with this coddling culture. We grew up in the era where if you saw a problem, you fixed it. You didn't dance around it. You didn't make excuses. If someone can't handle authority without turning into a dictator, they shouldn't be holding a damn badge. And if departments won't deal with it, then don't expect the public to respect them. This isn't about training. It's about stopping people who abuse power from ever getting in the first place. We need to get back to a Gen X style of thinking. Deal with things directly, tell it like it is, and hold people accountable for their actions. Stop with the buzzwords. Stop with the sidestepping. We're not here to hand out soft terms and make people feel better about the abuse of power. It is time to cut the shit and call it what it is. Unconscious bias bullshit, sure. It's real, but it's just the excuse. When we're talking about people who are assholes from the get-go, enough with the nicety. Start calling out the bullies and clean house. Let's stop pretending like these people are just unconsciously doing damage. We are smarter than that. And it's about damn time we acted like it. Anyway, I had to get my piece out on that and get that shit off my chest because I hear it all the time and it just frickin' aggravates me. So anyway, this is Mike. Say until next time. Catch y'all later.